What is going on, guys? Today we are covering the upcoming competitive FPS shooter XDEFIANT. But if you guys haven't done so already, please like and subscribe if you guys want to see more gaming reviews, discussions, and news. So what is XDEFIANT? XDEFIANT is being developed by Ubisoft. This game pretty much follows the classic arena shooter formula that Call of Duty has traditionally done over the past 15 years. Except the past 2 years with Modern Warfare and Vanguard, some people like to say. So I kind of want to get into what I like about the game first and foremost before we kind of answer the question of this title, which is, will XDEFIANT have long-term success? So what I like is I actually really love the movement in this game. It doesn't have any crazy movement exploits that you see in like Warzone, the original Warzone, for example, which to me personally is a good thing. Not that I want something super slow and tactical like Modern Warfare or Vanguard. I think this game's not necessarily built for that, but to fill that need, I like how this has a more classic COD movement system. I've always been a fan of the more Black Ops movement system than the Modern Warfare movement system, like in Cold War and Black Ops 4, for example. It was a little bit more like set in its ways and how you can move about the map. For a game like this, I do like the more simplistic weapon system when it comes to attachments and weapons. I feel like for arena shooters, it doesn't need to be so in depth with things. I think sometimes for a lot of players, the gunsmith in Call of Duty can be a little overwhelming sometimes. There's a lot of things to choose from and a lot of things to optimize. And it's not that this game doesn't have a lot of attachments and different ways to customize your gun, but it's a little bit more straightforward, I guess. And I kind of like that aspect of it. As for the amount of content that this game is putting out, I think it's awesome. We haven't seen a game put out this much content at launch, and also talk about post-launch content. We haven't seen that in so long. This game is going to be launching with 14 maps, 5 game modes, 24 weapons, and over 44 attachments. And that's just at launch. And then post-launch, we're going to get 3 new maps every season, 3 new weapons every season, new modes. It's awesome. We haven't seen anything like this in so long into a game, and I hope Ubisoft can really put it together, because Ubisoft hasn't had a good track record over the past few years, and it looks like they're really hoping to take advantage of COD's downfalls right now to really captivate that audience. So onto the next thing is no skill-based matchmaking. I love that. I love how there's no skill-based matchmaking. I like how sometimes, you're going to get schooled. There's going to be better players in this lobby, and then sometimes you're just going to dominate. I like the variety in that. So I think that's awesome that's going to be back. I think it's going to add a little bit more, like, I guess, variety into the way the game is, because I think sometimes with SBMM, you can kind of feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. And if you're a decent player, it's going to be surrounded by a bunch of other decent players. And then lastly, I love that I feel like Ubisoft is actually listening to the community. I mean, we saw in a lot of the promotions leading up to this game that they're talking to a lot of former competitive Call of Duty players and Call of Duty pros. And they're actually making an effort to really kind of listen to people, which, look, I don't really follow Ubisoft games like that, but from what I've heard, a lot of people say that Ubisoft doesn't really listen. And now it seems like this game seems like a whole new renaissance for Ubisoft, because obviously not just this game, but you also have the upcoming Avatar game as well as Assassin's Creed coming out. So it seems like they're trying to like kind of turn the tide in how they do things, starting with this game. So let's get into the things that concern me about this game. And the first one is that it kind of feels a little basic. It won't I don't know how well it would really hold on to the casual fan base, because they might say it's too similar to COD, and they might just go back to COD or Warzone or whatever when Modern Warfare 3 comes. And that was one thing I noticed. It felt too similar. And some people might want that, some people might like that. I'm just thinking from a business perspective, that could be a little concerning, because what value proposition are you offering to make players want to come back to you? And some of that is the content and listening to the community, no SBMM, but how big of a thing is that? I feel like that's kind of geared more towards the hardcore fan base. And even for myself, I don't know how long I will stay before it kind of feels repetitive, because that was one thing I did kind of notice. As much as I love the gameplay and I love the maps, I actually like the game a lot. It can feel a little repetitive. And if you're not somebody who's super into competitive, I meant to say feel repetitive, but if you're not someone who is really into that competitive scene and you just want to play something casual, I don't know how well this game will hold up for players like that. I think this is the kind of issue that we're seeing across the board with many arena shooters, even COD themselves, is that also it's kind of the same game modes for 20 years. And I think that's why BRs popped off so much in the past few years, was because I think a lot of people were just kind of tired of the arena shooters. It was kind of the same basic capping the flag or planting the bomb. You know, it's kind of the same old, and you know, some players are going to like that. But I mean, there's a reason why Fortnite and PUBG and Warzone and all these things have exploded, and even Tarkov, because it was different. You know, it's bringing something new and fresh to the genre. And I just feel like for XDefiant to have a really big splash and shake up the space in the FPS world, they have to do something a little bit more unique and different. And I think they can. I feel like no one has been able to really execute that in the arena shooter world, is bringing different game modes and different ways of playing that still feels familiar to what we're always been used to in the arena shooter space. And the one good thing I will say is that they are a free-to-play game, and it's not a graphically demanding game, which means it can run on a ton of systems. So they have that to their advantage. And we can see something like Counter-Strike, for example, that has helped Counter-Strike become the most played game on Steam for the past, I don't even know how long, what, 10, 12 years? Because of the fact that it can essentially run on a toaster. And this kind of goes back to my things I liked, was that they're not adding SBMM, but it's also a thing that might concern me, because let's not get it twisted. There's a reason why these games add skill-based matchmaking, because it's working. Player retention is everything when it comes to these developers and publishers, and it's clearly working. And there's a reason why COD won't get rid of it. I think the hardcore fan base that's on Twitter, that's on YouTube, Reddit, so on and so forth, they don't like it. But how much of that population really makes up for the entire player count? And I'm curious to see, on a large scale, getting rid of skill-based matchmaking really helps in the long term. I know games like Destiny 2 got rid of skill-based matchmaking, but Destiny 2 is also a game that is very, very, how do I say, hardcore fan base. They're not really necessarily getting a lot of new players. A lot of the players that are playing Destiny 2 are kind of the same players that have been playing it from the beginning, or if not, the players who are even just so stuck to it they can't even leave. I don't know if they're necessarily bringing in a lot of new players, so I think it kind of works for them. And I just want to say this too, I'm only bringing up these concerns because it's Ubisoft. If this was an indie FPS, I wouldn't have these same concerns at all. Obviously, I think if this was an indie project, it'd be awesome. Something like Shatterline, for example, which I've covered on this channel before, that game I love. I do think it's bringing a different element and something cool, while also sticking to that COD formula of that fast-paced arena shooter. So if that's a game that can hold about 10K players, that's great. But we're talking about Ubisoft here. Ubisoft, they're clearly after blood for Activision. They're clearly wanting, I mean, this is one of the biggest game developers in the world. They want to make a big splash in the scene, and they felt like they haven't done that since the launch of Rainbow Six Siege, and I think they're trying to capitalize on bringing that success back. So they're not just trying to do it to have 10K concurrent players. And I don't think having marketing and all this gameplay catered towards diehard competitive shooters could be a good thing. That could be a hard thing to capture, because a lot of the hardcore 6v6 COD fans that are excited for this game, but we all know historically the COD community, I have a lot of friends that play Call of Duty that have been playing Call of Duty since Call of Duty 4. I know a lot of them. It is very hard to pull those fans away from Call of Duty. They are one of the most stubborn fans that don't really like to get away from COD. So you're going after, especially the diehard competitive scene, the scene that does game battles, who does all these things. That's a really hard scene to pull from. Halo almost did it, but Halo dropped the ball. Can this game do that? I'm not sure. I think you're going after a fan base that is really difficult to get, and also how big really is that fan base to make it worth their while. So I just want to end it off with all that being said. I am excited for this game to come out and play it with some friends. I'm actually super pumped. I think we need a win in the FPS space. FPS space has been struggling lately the past few years, and I think we just need a win. Look, something that works, that's fun, and has a lot of content progression, and that we can play for a while. Sure, maybe this game won't last for super long, but at least if we can go in here and this game can have at least a year of success or whatever, by whatever metric people want to decide that by, I think that's good, because I think we need a win. I think it raises the standard to the developers out there. Like, look, we want high quality content and a lot of it, and not short side us by throwing out your quote unquote full releases that are really early access games. But I still go back to my fear of making this game too basic and too similar to other competitors. While it might be great in the short term, I don't know how well that will do in the long term, but only time will tell, I guess. I will say I do think this game will have a strong competitive fan base, and they will support it, like games like Rainbow Six, for example. I just don't know how well the casual gamer will hold on to this. But I want to end this off that I hope it succeeds. I hope it does well and it pushes the envelope in the arena shooter space, because Lord knows we need it. But yeah, if you guys haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to the content. I do a lot of reviews, gaming discussions, and gaming news just like this. So if you guys haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to the content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.